do so, because Story Club is actually a community where we have conversations. It's not like one of those webinars where there's one person doing a monologue and everybody's just trying to sort of try to understand what that person is saying. Here, it's more of a conversation. So we will, of course, have a conversation with Joy, our guest speaker for today. But each one of us also can ask questions and contribute to the conversation. So if possible, I would request all of you to turn on your video. If you're in a position where you cannot, then I totally understand. But as far as possible, please turn on your video. Okay, so I'm now going to just try and open my presentation to get started. Okay, and in the meantime, if everybody can just drop in your introduction. So, your name, what you do, and maybe one thing that most people do not know about you. So, if you can share that in the chat box so that everyone else can get to know who you are. So, what you do, your name, what you do, and one thing that most people do not know about you. So, I will get started if you like. My name is Sachin. I'm a leadership storytelling coach and trainer. I try to bring the power of stories to leadership and to the workplace. One thing that a lot of people do not know about me is that I once traveled to Peru and participated in a fighting festival. And I got knocked out in 15 seconds. That's a detail that I've been trying to forget ever since. So if all of you can just drop in your quick introductions in the chat box, one line, who you are, what you do, one thing that most people do not know about you. Hey, Neha, Malabika, Aparna, Tanaya, Smitha, Sharada, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Story Club. Quick introduction while I pull out the presentation and then get started with the program of the day. Hi, Tushika. Tushika, you are logging in from Bangalore, right?
Yes.
And for the benefit of our guest speaker, Joy, and our visitors today or our guests today, Raksha is our community manager, and Yashas also works in the Story Co team.
Okay.
Right, so I'm going to pull out the presentation, get started. In the meantime, you can continue dropping your introductions in the chat box. Okay. Okay, can I get a thumbs up if you're able to see my screen? If it's clear and visible? Fantastic, great. Okay, so welcome everyone to the 91st meeting of Story Club. Today is Wednesday, 27th May 2026. This is a special session in the sense that we, of course, we meet every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. The last Wednesday of every month is where we invite a guest speaker to have a conversation and to learn from him or her facets of leadership, career enhancement, and better communication and storytelling, which of course leads to better opportunities and career progression. So that's what we are going to do today. Today's meeting is called Breaking the Invisible Wall. So how do you actually break free or get into, wherever you are, how do you get to the next level? So if you are somebody who is an individual contributor, how do you become a senior manager? If you're sort of at the middle management level, how do you get to senior management and go to the CXO level and all of that? That's what we are going to discuss today. I will do the introduction of our guest a little bit later in the next couple of slides, but I also wanted to tell you why the Story Club exists. Stories are what make humans special. All of the things that we've learned, things that we've made sense of in our life is through stories, whether it's the Ramayana, Mahabharata, the Bible, comic books, movies, etc., etc. a lot of what we believe in and who we are is actually thanks to the stories that we've participated in or we've listened to. Yet their power is underutilized in business, career, and in life. So the purpose of the Story Club is to help millions to reflect on, learn from, and narrate stories from their own experiences to lead more mindful, impactful, and joyful lives. One of the things that we believe here at the Story Club, that apart from being a great communication tool, stories are also a great discovery tool, rediscovering who you are, letting others discover who you are, etc., etc. And that is why we want to help people reflect on their own life stories and narrate them a lot more, because we believe that the first and the most important audience of your story is you yourself. And if a story taught you something, then there is merit in narrating it to someone else. What does, I mean, a few guidelines about the Story Club. So we join at 6:55 p.m. We try to, I mean, we join in from a laptop. Every member does that to have a seamless experience. We do not encourage drop-offs unless you have an emergency, and every discussion and a challenge and interesting things that we do in the community is to ensure that you are able to derive the most in terms of progress. Raksha, did you raise your hand to remind me about the recording?
Yes, Sachin, and also, are you scrolling the slides? Because I can only see the first slide.
Yeah, I am scrolling the slide. The session SOP slide hasn't come up.
No.
Okay, all right. Hi, Subbu, good to see you.
Yeah, Sachin. Sorry.
Eh, Now, did my slide scroll?
Yes,
I'm on.
yes,
Okay,
it
okay,
did.
cool. So no drop-offs unless it's an emergency. Participate in every discussion and challenge. On regular meetings, like during regular meetings, today is not a regular one. Today is the guest session, which we do once a month. We do writing and speaking challenges as well. So we request everyone to participate in those as well, because there's enough theory out there. The idea of Story Club is preparation, practice, and feedback. That you have a space where you're able to prepare to become a better communicator, leader. At the same time, you have practice that happens within these meetings itself, and you also get feedback from a like-minded community of people who are invested in your progress. A little bit about what we do. I mean, our company is called the Story Co. Actually, we run leadership, storytelling, coaching, and training programs for a lot of corporates. So these are some of the companies that we've worked with, and some of the programs that we do. So I won't go into all of them, but there's one program that we focus on a lot, or probably 60% of all the programs that we do, which is called Lead with Stories, how to be nice but effective. So how do you, nice stands for negotiate, inspire, connect, and explain. It's a program that we run for a bunch of companies, including Times Pro, Saks Retail, Tata Motors, etc., etc. There's some amount of customization in each of these programs. And these are all the programs that we've done for the past 6 years. Now, one thing that I realized while doing these programs was that we do theory and we give people the opportunity to participate in exercises over 2 days when we do these programs. However, uh, I feel that unless and until people practice a certain skill over a period of time, it does not really become second nature or does not really become a part of your muscle memory. And hence, I felt that a space like Story Club, where we meet regularly, we talk about storytelling, communication, etc., is what can help us actually make this and turn this into a habit. And that's why Story Club, in some sense, is your communication gym. So we say write, narrate, win. So we have a bunch of members. Some of them are present today. Subbu is one of them. And the entire idea is that in a meeting, we'll take a piece, look at a piece of content, either watch, read, deliberate upon it, and then we look at a micro template, which helps us then create a LinkedIn post and also narrate something, which is what we do in most of the meeting. In the recent past, we've done these topics. So, for instance, how do you narrate a good customer transformation story? All of us are in the space of sales. So whether you're working with a different department within your organization who you were able to help, or you are an entrepreneur who's trying to bring your next potential client on board, then you need to narrate a good customer transformation story. We did a meeting on that. There was something called pitch perfect, which was the art of communicating something important in less than 60 seconds with the right kind of impact. Then there are situations where we are all put on the spot suddenly by a boss or by a senior colleague, sometimes even by clients. So how do you come up with an articulate answer or an argument in when you do not really have time? So that was another meeting that we did recently. And how do you also have good small talk, right? Like everything is not just about making presentations in the one to many format. There's also situations where we have to have good small talk with people. So how do you do that? So there's a technique that I've come up with, which is called OPPO, which I'll talk about probably if you folks become members. So these are all the things that we do. So these are our regular meetings. But today, like I mentioned already, the meeting is a guest speaker who is going to speak. And that guest speaker is none other than, okay, before I get to that, the eventual idea of the Story Club is to help you become the most interesting and insightful person in the room using the power of stories and good communication. Okay, back to our guest speaker. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to our guest speaker. He is Mr. Joy Banerjee, and he is the CHRO of CDSL. Of course, I think CDSL as a company does not need any introduction. And Joy has had rich and diverse experience over the past 3 decades. One of the reasons, I mean, why I decided that Joy should be a guest speaker at our community is because I had a professional discussion with him a few weeks ago. And the moment we started speaking, he was able to lay out the brief in less than 2 minutes. Not just that, the empathy with which he spoke and his ability to ask questions and also paint a picture while he speaks, I think made him like the perfect candidate for all of us to learn from. He is the CHRO at CDSL, but he's had a wonderful career. He's worked with LIC, he's worked with Tata AIG, Reliance Insurance, and he's also made a lot of lateral moves. And that's something also that I would like to dive deep into and understand from him. How can more of us plan our career to, be able to fulfill our own potential apart from our own desires as well? So, we can all do like a round of applause for Joy. Joy, thanks a lot for accepting the invitation and becoming a part of this discussion. I'm going to add you into the spotlight.
Yeah. The pleasure is all mine, Sachin. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to be here and to able to share this platform. As I said, that I'm also one of your listeners to the to the radio channels, and I really love listening to your stories and your anecdotes. So happy to
Thanks a
be
lot,
here.
Joy. Thanks a lot, Joy. Thank you. Thank you again for accepting the invitation. My first question, Joy, is going to be related to that incident as to why a lot of people in LIC, the headquarters in Kolkata, right, still remember the name Joy Banerjee. What is the special feat that you achieved there that people still remember you? Let's kickstart the conversation with that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful piece of nostalgia to be there actually. So those were my early days. Like, I was what about 20, 21 years of age, and I had joined this organization just out of school, and we were just like bunch of energy house which was there. So this incident is about a day when one of my superiors from a different department. So I used to like in a day I used to do at least two to three departments. So from a different department where the person had not turned up and there were some important checks that needs to be issued. And he reaches out and he said that, Joy, can you do this for me? I said, yeah, of course, no big deal. I'll do it for you. So in those days, like for the people who are on the call and they may not understand the context that, why do we write checks? So I'm talking about 3 decades back when even computers were not there. I'm talking about a time when calculator was the only machinery that you can talk about. And I'm talking about a time when manual entry used to be done and checks used to be written. So, it's about 3 decades back. So that's the kind of world that we are in. And the books that we used to write, the ledgers that we used to write were this big. Like, I don't know even if I can show it on the screen. So it used to be like start from one end and then go to the other end. So he gave me this task and he said that, can you do this for me? I said, yeah, of course. And I took it up and as I entered it and I completed the task, and I was done in about less than about 2 hours. And I went to the cafeteria and I was having a good time. Now this gentleman turns up there and he walks up to me and he said, Joy, you are having fun here, but I gave you a task. So I said, yeah, that's done. So he was in disbelief. He couldn't believe that, this has been done. I said that all the things. I said, yes, not only done, it has been tallied, checks have been written. Now you just have to sign it and give it off. So he was in disbelief that, this cannot be done. So he came back and he checked at least 5 to 6 different entries to see that whether it was all done and it was all correct. And he found that it was correct. And that's a legend that is still there. And even if you go to CAB1 in Russell Street, Kolkata, you'll still find, if you ask people about me, they'll say, yes, we really miss him. And this is the legend that I created. So I think most important thing was that in a short span of time, how you can turn around and do a large amount of things. That was something that amazed people.
Got it. So they still know you as the prolific check writer on Russell Street.
Yeah.
Great. Joy, also, one of the other things that sort of stood out in your profile and your journey is the kind of lateral moves that you've made, right? And I would also request our members and listeners to, if you have any questions, please make note. We will have a session where you can ask your questions directly to Joy once our conversation is done. So, Joy, yes, lateral moves, right? You started with finance operations, and from there you went to training, and then you went eventually you came into core HR as well. So a little bit on that as to which roles did you pivot into, and whether this is something that you would recommend to others. If yes, why? If no, why?
So when I joined LIC, so that was my, the foundation. So the basic foundation of LIC is they keep rotating you. So they don't keep you at one department, irrespective of, So of course, we came from the vocational stream. We were experimented even more. But then, even if you are not from a vocational, even if you normally join the company, the normal practice of the company is they keep rotating you. I think that's brilliant, because then what happens is you get an understanding about the entire organization, and you get to know the entire company, the entire business, how it operates, and the various functions that it operates. So I think that laid the foundation for myself. And as I started working, I started realizing that I had some inner strengths which was coming up as I was progressing in the organization, as well as I was switching jobs. So to start off with, in LIC, of course, I did multiple jumps in terms of departments, functions, as I told you, because in a day I used to do at least 2 to 3 different departments. So that gave me exposure of the entire branch ops. So even today, if you wake me up in the middle of the night and ask me about an insurance branch office, I can tell you without a hiccup. So I think that's the foundation that it gave me. Now, from there, when I moved into the private sector, that was my first pivot, is where from being an overall things that I was doing, I became a specialist, and I entered as a accountant, or as a person who's responsible for money for that particular location, as well as admin responsibility. So that was my first pivot. So when I did that, I did an amazing job there also, because what happened is, the moment I picked that up, I realized there were certain hurdles that were there, and that needs to be addressed. And while I addressed those things, to give you an instance there, we had to move to a new office, which was supposed to be ready by October. And what I did is, I went up to my branch head there and I told that in the month of end August, early September, I said it's ready. He was in disbelief. He said that this cannot happen. It cannot be completed. I said, yes, it is completed. Then he said that everything, if I pick up the phone, everything has to work. If I go to a room that has to be operational. I said, everything is operational. You can go and check. So to check me, what he did is, he said that I will go at a date when you are not telling. I'll choose my date and then I'll go and check it. I said, up to you, but you need to inform me, because there's nobody in the office, so the security has to be there. So he did inform me. Then he went as per his choice, and to his surprise, he saw that everything was working. He was so amazed, and he said that then we can prepone our movement to this office, and we did that. We actually preponed our movement to that office, and we moved there. So while this happened for me, at the same time, there was an opportunity which opened up from me in Mumbai, and I applied for that. And what happened is, in spite of people being there in Mumbai, I from Kolkata got shortlisted, Now, this is where I learned my second leadership lesson. The leadership lesson that I learned is he saw that I did things for him. I moved the mountains and I could do things for him. But when an opportunity came for me, he didn't stop me. He said that you deserve this and you need to go and take up this responsibility. But yes, before you go, do find me a replacement. So while I was pivoting and moving into different things, I was lucky enough to even learn some of the leadership practices that is there, that if you have somebody who's talented and who needs a larger territory, do not stop him, allow him to grow. And that's one of the leadership lessons that I learned. Now, this is my second pivot then that happened, is where I moved in from being handling only the finance and the administrative part to becoming a branch in charge. And I moved into a different world altogether. Again, here the new things had to be learned because it's a new city, new location, new people, everything was new. But I think that's where my inner strength was there. My inner strength is I can befriend people very fast. I can be communicating with people very fast. And I think that came handy to me. I think that's my strength that kind of helped me. And here also, I started opening up channels much more faster. Here I realized that, what was the need that they were looking at. The branch was looking at certain needs because obviously they were not very comfortable, because one of them was also a contestant who had applied for the role and didn't get it, and now here has to be reporting into me. So obviously felt that what do you have more that I don't have it and you got it? So at least I had to prove that metal to that particular person. So I did certain things out over there and could complete the requirement of that branches, and that branch also I performed. And while I performed well, I got even chosen by the same location to go to the service center, which is actually kind of a two levels up, a notch up. So it's branch to the upper branch and then to the service center. So this is where I was when I got my third pivot. So the third pivot was when I met a gentleman who was into training, and that person said that, can you do something for me in the learning and development space? And that was my third pivot where I moved into the learning and development. And in this space, it was a completely blank territory for me. I had no idea about how training is done or how even a training is conducted. My only exposure to this was that I had done some stint of training in my earlier company. That was my only stint. But then, aside that, I did not know how a training is done or how a training is conducted. What is facilitation? That was not known. So here, I got help of many mentors. And here is my another leadership lesson that I learned is there is no harm in learning from somebody who's junior to you, which in today's parlance we call it as reverse mentoring. But it came to me much, much earlier that, I realized that even if the person is junior to me in terms of age, in terms of experience, but he knows more than me in terms of learning and development, in terms of more than in terms of how the delivery is done, how a presence has to be maintained, the entire facilitation has to be done. So I think that is something that I learned out over there. So in this pivots that was happening to me, I was constantly also learning a lot of leadership lesson. And what was getting constantly pushed to me is that if I'm passionate about something and I'm practicing that off and how that is paying off, and every time it paid off. So everywhere I went, it paid off. And then I got into a mentorship where I was mentored by a person. And within about 4 months after completion of that mentorship over there, I actually got promoted and the situation changed. My mentor actually became my reportee. So, so that's how the situation changed. So that was my pivot. After that, I pivoted into core training. So instead of being only a sales training, I came into core training. So which is the L&D of the world, where you do the OD part and other things. So I did it. I did that as my next pivot. So I did that both nationally and internationally. And in fact, this is the space where I got exposure both in national markets as well as international markets. And my entire viewpoint completely changed. And while I did that for a large portion of time, and then I realized that if I have done everything, it's time for me to experiment something which I have not done anything. And that was the core HR. And that's when I moved into core HR. And this is where I am today, which is my final pivot. I think so, or maybe many more pivots to come in future. This is where I'm standing right now. So where I moved into core HR.
Yeah. Joy, so when we were having the conversation leading up to this session, you were talking about that 3C framework that you've used in your career. So maybe if you can elaborate a little bit on that and how that differs when you start your career and then when, as you know, you progressively grow in your career.
Absolutely. So I think that the framework is very, very useful for the young aspirants who are there. In fact, I just attended a workshop, in fact, a session on Saturday where I did pass on this to the young students, and I told them this is a wonderful framework. You can just use it. So the three C's are very simple, out of which the first C is basically communication. I think communication is the most important part of anything in this world, whether it is professional or it is personal. So the communication is the most critical aspect, and if you over communicate, there's not a problem. But if you under communicate or if you don't communicate, that's where all the challenges start. In fact,
Right.
90% of your problems are because of wrong
Joy,
communication.
I'm going to interrupt there because it's very interesting. Like most leaders that I've spoken to, even in the past, all of them say that over communication is okay, or it's safer to over communicate than to under communicate. I mean, can you just sort of dial a little bit into that? Why do you think so? And what are the disadvantages of under communication?
Yeah, of course. So, see, the biggest disadvantage of an under communication is you think the other person has understood you, but the other person has not. So, I think a communication, we all know this, but I think what happens is consciously we know this, but unconsciously we forget. So the consciously the thing is whenever you communicate, what happens? It's a passage of information or data or whatever we call it between two people. So one person gives it, the other person receives it, but the important thing is there a feedback? So in the communication, I think the most important element is the feedback. That I have told you, hey Sachin, I would like to go and enjoy a movie. So I've communicated that I want to enjoy a movie, but I haven't told you what genre I want to see. Now, in your mind, you must be thinking, Joy must be liking action movies. So let me take a tickets of action movie and surprise him. But I may be hating war movies or action movies. I might be liking the rom-coms of the world. And now when Sachin is so happy that I'm going to really make Joy so excited because I've got him two tickets for him. But what really happens is Joy is completely, he's saying that what the hell is this? I don't like it. But then Sachin is saying, you told me you like movies, but I don't like movies. So I'm just giving an example, applying it in the corporate world. So what happens is many a times we work with multi-functions, multi-departments, and if you want to get certain things done, and if you pass on a message that I need certain inputs from your side, maybe the other person doesn't understand why you need it. And the most common conflict that happens is when there is interdepartmental transfer. They think that this is something that you needed, but I don't have the time to give it to you,
Right.
but not
So,
realizing the organizational objective.
so you also mean to say context, right?
Yeah,
Communicating context of
context.
not just the instruction or not just the information, but in the case, let's say in some cases, do you think it also happens that over communication could also mean repetition? That I'm as a boss, I'm repeating certain things to my team over and over again. Do you think in that case it's not a good idea?
No, it is not, because over communication is never bad, because then
Okay.
what happens is the people will always know that boss is very clear what he wants
Hmm.
and will never question you. But yeah, it depends upon is when you are over communicating or you are repetitive communicating, are you actually stretching the bar too much and making it like, too much of a bore? Like,
Hmm.
that is the skill that a leadership should have, that while I'm communicating that this is required, but not at the cost of making it sour for you or not making it bitter for you. Like, it's like the lemon squeeze. If you squeeze it
Hmm.
at the right proportion, it gives you the right kind of a taste. But if you squeeze it a little bit more, it will be bitter, which may not be good.
Right, right. Yes, Joy. Now the other two C's that you were talking about in
Correct.
three.
So while you have understood the concept of communication and which goes throughout your career, the second one that is needed is the curiosity. Like, how curious are you? And if I take you back to the experiment that I did with writing the check. So I was curious to understand that, what takes so much time for people to complete this. So I had written about 150 checks, just to give you a sense. And to do that kind of a work in those days, it's a complete 2 days job. So for me, the curiosity was, what the hell does it take to complete 2 days, for this particular task? So that curiosity actually drove me to understand that why does it take so much of time. So I realized that the entry is first done, and then you do start checking, and your debit and the credit has to match, and only then you can write the check, and only then you can issue it. So I went into the core problem, the root cause, and that's another lesson, that go to the root cause. And I found out why this error happens, because the vouchers that has been generated actually has not been checked. Now, if I check the vouchers, so if I check the vouchers out of the about 250 or 300 vouchers that you were dealing with, about 100 vouchers you don't need to enter, because those are nil vouchers. So you don't need to enter. So that can be kept aside. So then you are bringing down from 250, 300 to about 100, 150. So you have to enter only 100, 150. So out of this 100, 150, when you do the check-ins and you say that your debit and the credit completely matches, what happens is you have saved time. And this is easy to check because you're just checking it quite fast, along with the only machinery that you had was calculator. So you're checking it fast and you can get answers, and then you enter. Then for sure you know that it's matching, because the debit is matched, your credit is matched. Then write the check and you're done. And I could complete this entire task in 2 hours flat. So this
Got
is
it.
the curiosity. So this curiosity has to be there, that, this is one example of curiosity. Other example of curiosity, if you remember, again, I'll take you back to my example, is I used to do multiple departments. So while I used to do multiple departments, the sense for me was, what is this department doing? What is the function this department is doing? My pivots that has happened in my life is also because of curiosity. I want to understand what is that happening in the customer service? What is that is happening in the training? What is that is happening in finance? And how is it all integrating into the finally the corporate objective? So that curiosity always keeps you alive. I think the saying that curiosity killed the cat is not really true. You can actually be a better cat if you know the curiosity well.
You can actually be a cat, like they say.
You can be the cat.
Yeah. So communication, curiosity.
And in fact, CAT, I would give it a full form in a different way. That I would say CAT can be actually an acronym. It can be a person, like CAT is the word. So it is it has attributes of itself. While you are a cat, you are a cool person. Like that's what the Gen Zs would love it today. And you got the attitude that is required, and you are the talent. So cool attitude, talented guy is a cat.
Cool attitude, talented guy. Interesting.
I just made it up.
Okay. All right.
So I think, while that is the next C, the third C for people who start their career is basically, while I understand you are communicating well, I understand you're curious, but the next thing that has to be there, that how creative are you? Like, the creativity, which I narrated in my stories also, that the creativity has to come out. And these creativities actually help you. And this is nothing but what I'm scratching the surface is, I'm scratching the surface of innovation. Like, how innovative are you? How are you able to find out new methods? Are you able to do things in a different way? And you basically then become legends, because you did something what others are going to follow. So are you going to be a follower, or are you going to be followed? I think that's where the creativity comes in.
Interesting. No, that reminds me of something that I know of one of our members, that's Subbu. Subbu is, I can see him on the screen. So Subbu was once interviewing somebody in his current organization, or was it Subbu? What was that? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, and I'll then talk about why you're a legend.
No, a long time back. I think in my previous organization, so I was interviewing a guy who had worked for me in long time back. Or he was not work for me, but when I interviewed him, so he didn't know who I was, but he was coming from my previous organization, and
A
his profile
similar role or the
similar.
same
So
role.
when I looked at
Yeah.
his profile, I could say that this is something that I had managed. So I was just asking with him, interviewing in terms of his profile, what were his challenges, is the system manual. So he was processing, it was an insurance company. So he was processing commissions through a process. So I was asking, how do you process it? How good is your system? And he said, yeah, you know what, we got a fantastic system. And every time when we run this, and it's been built by a guy called Subbu, so it runs well and so on and so forth. He didn't know who that person was. So I think probably you get those compliments and you feel that, yeah, you know what, that's a big tick in your career.
Yeah, yeah. So he was sitting in front of Subramaniam. That's, I mean, that's the name
Yeah.
but he didn't know that
He
it's the
didn't know
same,
that the same person,
this
he's speaking to the same
Subramaniam is the
person.
same Subbu who created that system which people are still using in Kotak, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, Joy, back to you.
Yeah, so that's why I said, so I think the creativity is the most important. You leave your mark behind. In fact, as Subbu has rightly narrated, that this is something that will be there as legend. It will be there as story. And are you able to do that? And when you're young, trust me, what happens is your inhibitions are not there. Your biases are not there. You can actually want to explore new things. And this is a chance for you to just go ahead and give it a shot. At max, what will happen? At max, it will not work. That's okay. I think a key lesson out over here is, while we all talk about success, it is also important that if you fail, it's important that what you learned from that failure. And once you have failed, don't repeat that. And of course, learn from that failure that this doesn't work for you. I think that is also critical for us to take away with us, that there would be successes. Of course, we all work for success, but there would also be failures. But the failures is not the final thing. And in that, we'll have to learn that, I got this failure because certain things didn't work. And that's my learning. So there are
Right.
two ways of looking at a failure. One is I failed, the other way is I learned. So I think the
Right.
option that should be taken is learn. But yeah, of
Right.
course, a word of caution is don't keep learning too much. That's not too good for you.
Corporate does not have that much patience also.
Corporate doesn't have that much patience.
Right. Joy, I also probably want you to share with the group, without taking names, that one experience where you followed somebody into an organization and how that didn't turn out. I mean, since we are also talking about things that didn't work out well,
Yeah.
why it didn't work out well and what that taught you.
Sure, I'll go there, but before that, let me complete the segment that we started off on the CCC. So this
Oh,
is the
okay.
first part of the CCC, but there is also a second part of the CCC. The second part of the CCC is, as you mature in the organization and you grow and you have settled yourself. Now you are the leader and people are following you. So this is where the third C changes. And this is where the third C becomes for you is clarity. So while you become creative and created your path, you've created some workflows, you've created some new systems, but now you are at a leadership level and you have to lead. Not that your creativity should stop, I'm not saying that, but here is a chance for you to give more clarity so that people have clarity, they have clarity of thought, they have clarity of vision, and that is needed. So I think as you move forward, the C's for you, the third C changes for you from being creative to being giving clarity. I think so that's where I would like to complete that part.
Sure.
Now coming to this is that's a leadership lesson basically. For me that happened is while I followed one of my leaders and whom I still till today also I respect a lot. But then what happened is you go there and you're just about to settle down and you realize the leader who got you is leaders moving on. So then what happens is you are at the mercy of the company. So I think the leadership lesson that I learned is while you can admire leaders, you can actually take a lot of learnings from that leaders. But while you're taking a career decision has to be taken more holistically. So the career decision has to be taken from the organization. The career decision has to be taken as, is it going to help you in terms of your career? Is this a career move for you, or you're just doing it for the heck of it? In fact, one advice that I would give to all youngsters is they switch too soon. So then what happens is they think that, okay, this is helping me. I'm going up, up, and up. But then you have to realize while you're doing that, which is good, there's no harm in doing that. But then you have to realize that every time that you're switching and moving up, are you also enhancing your skills? Are you also making yourself better? I highly recommend one book for all people is What Got You Here Will Not Get You There. I think this is a book that everybody should keep with them. And that gives you such fantastic view of in terms of whatever you're doing. And if you are going to a particular place, always remember that's a place that has brought you on an elevation. Now it has got you there, but if you have to stay there or if you go upwards, you definitely need to change. I think that's most critical. So to cut the long story short, I think while you take career decisions, it is always important to look at a larger picture than looking at a shorter picture, which may sometimes backfire.
Got it. Joy, the next question I had for you is that, when we were having the conversation, I realized that despite being a very good communicator and all that, you put a lot of emphasis on preparation. You told me that for a 30-minute presentation, you need to have 3 hours of material, which also means that you practice so much. And for a large part of your career, you traveled across the country and also to other countries, training people and all that. So if you can just shed some light on preparedness or preparing your communication, and how that helps, or some techniques that you've sort of figured out over the years. I think that'll be helpful for our members as well.
Sure. So I'll take two examples here. So one book, again, I am a lover of books. So one book which definitely helped me a lot and it still helps me is the book of Seven Habits. Like, it's Stephen Covey book.
Yeah.
So I think, and I was lucky enough, I attended one of his personal, workshops. So I was in US, and at that time I attended a workshop which he himself did it. So I think that's one learning that stays with me. So in that, what he talks about Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, the four quadrants, of course, people know it. I'm not getting into those details, but what's critical is that planning preparation. So that's something that stayed with me and it still stays with me. So anything that I do extensive planning so that I'm prepared for it and so that I can address it. And this planning preparation helps you in case when you are there, if the situation changes, can you address that? And that's the reason when I quoted with you that even if it's a 30 minutes presentation, you need to do a 3 hours of working, because you are covering all parts, so that if somebody is throwing a googly at you, you can at least face it, rather than like not knowing what to do. You know how to face it. So that's most important. One movie clip that I would leave people with is like, and it's a must watch. It's a real life movie, Erin Brockovich. So in that movie, like if people have not watched it, so I will just say that do watch it. I think excellent lessons to be learned, especially in this terms of dedication, planning preparation, and how the person is ready. So I'm just narrating one scene from that movie, in which she is not a highly educated or a learned professional, and she is contested by one of the legal so-called, like the white collared and highly educated, and the person comes and says that, do you know everything, like I can contest you, or I can question you, that do you really know everything? And then what happens is, she said that, you throw me a question, you ask me anything you want to ask. And she not only answers, she said that, I have the phone number, and if you want, I can tell you more details. I think that is what the reflection of planning preparation. That is something that I love doing, and that is something that I'm talking about. That when you get into the subject, you're actually deep in the subject. And here I would also bring one important learnings that I learned while I did extensive international travel and international learnings is, I've seen people who are outside India. So because they do work so deep, so any work that they take up, they actually go very deep in that subject. I think that is something that's I've picked this up in my international assignments, that if you pick up a subject, go so deep that nobody can even contest you. So that's something that we really need to pick it up. In India, of course, what happens is we generally don't go that deep. We generally are more of generalists. We know across, but we generally don't deep dive on a particular subject. But they do deep dive on particular subject, and that's their I think key to success, because they have so much of planning and so much of preparation that they really know that subject very well.
Right. And so let's say if there's a situation, I'm just assuming that Shabarish tomorrow suddenly has been given the, brief that the international CEO or somebody is coming down and he has to present or give an update on his department or his team or the company's work. There's not a lot of time to prepare. I mean, it's just overnight. What would you recommend to him, or what would you suggest to him, how he goes on about preparing to present to a senior colleague, which has both implications on his team and his own career probably also.
So I think in this, one of the key lessons is asking the correct questions or the key questions. So you can't be doing everything overnight, because let's understand, time is fixed. So 60 seconds will always make it a minute. Although yes, I am reading an article that in next few years, we might have a lesser 1 second lesser, and 59 seconds is going to be a minute, but we'll see that when it happens. But now, as of now, 60 seconds is a minute and 60 minutes is an hour. You can't change that. So, like,
Right.
I have heard many people time management. Actually, you don't manage time, you manage yourself. So, here, what is critical is first have an understanding about what is really needed for that particular person's presentation. You don't have to learn and know everything overnight. Ask the critical questions, and those questions will give you inputs in terms of what should be you being ready with. You have limited time. In this limited time, you have to gather information that is there and then prepare it and be ready for it. Sometimes what happens is we try to be an expert, and in that process, we end up getting nothing. Rather than that, it's always good that I focus on the things that is required, and I say that this is the readiness that we could be doing today. However, if you give us time, we'll deep dive and give you much more details, and there's no harm in doing that. And I have in my experience seen that when you make a very honest confession and you say that this is what I know and I've done this with the limited time. However, if you give me time, I can really deep dive onto it and can come up with answers. People always give you time, but then you
Fantastic.
have to be genuine about it. I think the most important thing is, are you genuine about it? If you're not, if you're just trying to hide it, you will get caught. I think the most important thing is be genuine, be realistic, and that really helps you. And there's no harm in asking the right kind of questions. In fact, if you ask the right kind of questions, you really know where you're going. As simple as that.
Got it. Fantastic. I mean, I was expecting you to say that now that you have 12 hours, you divide it into 3 hours where you do prep and then don't sleep through the night. That's but
Not at all.
very happy that you've given the suggestion that I think actually helps. A lot of people, I think, dive into communication without even actually understanding what's the outcome and what is it that's required. I also want you to share that interesting experience that you've had of leading teams where you didn't have anything to give in terms of incentives, rewards, recognition, and all of that. And how did you manage to inspire people to continue to contribute to the company, which was going through a tough time? So,
Yeah.
if you can talk about the company, will be good. But I'll let you decide what's the right thing to
Yeah,
do.
of course. I'll of course talk about the company. In fact, that's my earliest in, which was Ireland Affairs, and there I did everything that is not there in the SOP. I think everything that is defined under the SOP couldn't be done there because it was going through a tough time. We had to take a lot of tough decisions. We had to ask a lot of people to go. We had to ask a lot of people get merged into a new entity. Not an easy space to be. There was no incentives. There were no bonuses. The only thing that we could give to people was increments which was matching up with the inflation. That's it. Nothing more than that. So I think this is where your real test comes in, because when you are a human resource professional, this is where your real test comes, when all those things which are easily available for you, like if anybody comes crying to you, said incentives, give it, some extra money, give it, promotion, give it, and it's like you can easily take care of that task. But now you are in a situation where you don't have all those things, all those playbooks are not working for you. Then what do you do? And this is where your real relationship comes into picture. This is where your real intent comes into picture, that this is what it is, this is my intent with you, and this is what my story is with you. But now, if you want to take it, it's excellent. If you don't want to take it, I have no qualms against you or no complaints against you. I think that's the most critical part. And what I did out over there is I tested out things which was completely based on relationship. So we did all kind of things which was bringing people together. We brought the human touch, that was most critical. We got things doing or moving in a time when we were going through COVID. So you can imagine, we were at home, people couldn't meet. We were talking through this same Zoom call. We were seeing each other in those small boxes, yet we were keeping people engaged. And I think that's where the trick is, that keeping people engaged, touching their hearts, moving on the relationships, and doing things which is really important for people. That empathy, which is very important, that really works. I'll give you one example. Those days, what was happening is it was very difficult for people to get their vaccines. It was very difficult to get their medications. So what we did is, because all of us were at home, but we had our own connections built. So we used that connections to provide people the support that was needed. So it was not defined in any of the SOPs, but later on the people picked it up. So many organizations now have that in their SOP. But when we did it, it was not there in the SOP. So did everything that was not there in the SOP.
Got it. The next question, Joy, I have for you is, a lot of you've had the opportunity of, I mean, you work with a lot of people who, and being the CHRO and also earlier in HR, you have that bird's eye view of what is it that a lot of middle management executives are doing well and could do better. So if you had, let's say, a few key takeaways to share with the rest of us, if you are facing some kind of career stagnation, that I really want to go to the next level, but it's not working out. I've done everything possible in terms of performance, etc., but I'm hitting a wall. What would be your suggestion for someone who's going through that phase in their career?
So that's a fantastic question. So for that, a couple of important things that one people has to keep in mind is, first and foremost, be brutally honest to yourself. I think most of the times what happens is we are not brutally honest to ourselves, and we try to understand and see ourselves from somebody else's lens. I think that is the first pitfall. So the first thing that we need to do is be brutally honest about what you are, where you are. Uh, Quantify yourself in terms of what your strengths and weaknesses are, and what are the things that you can do differently, and then list down what are the things that you did right but it didn't pay off for you, and what are the things that you missed out which could pay off for you. So this is an opportunity for you to do a self examination, that okay, hey Joy, these are the things you could have done but you didn't do it, and these are the things you did do but it didn't pay off. Now it's a two different scenarios altogether. So the things that you did do but didn't pay off, now deep dive and understand why it did not pay off. It could be for multiple reasons. One reason could be is possibly the timing was incorrect. Possibly the manager didn't want it what you wanted to do. So you have to keep your ego aside and understand that what is it that the organization is expecting, that your manager is expecting. And if you are able to do that, and if you are able to mend your ways, then you will find that avenues are opening up. That's number one. Number two, let's not forget that any kind of a growth or any kind of a hierarchy is not only vertical. Those days are gone. So what is really important for us is, rather than seeing something which is vertical, I would advise see it as a horizontal growth. See it as that, are you able to do more horizontally? You're moving across the organization. It's like a mosaic. That are you moving across and you're seeing that, okay, this is what I do and I'm an expert in this, but I'm also doing something else. I'm doing something else. And while you keep doing something else more and more and more, trust me, you will have growth in your organization. It cannot be that you will not have growth. You will definitely have. Now, again, the definition is, in fact, when I have these interesting conversations with some of the team members, I ask them, what is growth? So they say, sir, promotion. I said, what is promotion? So they say, sir, income. I said, what is income? So, sir, more money. So if I keep giving you more money, is it that enough? Is it that what you're looking at? That's when they start thinking, and then they say, no, no, I want power. Now, what is power? So that means I want more people reporting into me. So I said, what is more people? So I'll make you a security guard head and all the securities will report to you. Does that help to you? So the thing is, many a times people are not clear in their mind, what do you want? What is really going to drive you? And if that is going to drive you, now ask the question is, do you have the competency to do that? Like in your mind, you would think that I want to be a people manager and I want to drive a large team. But the immediate question that should come to you, do you have the competency to run that? And if you don't have, it's okay. You can either develop your skills, or otherwise, if you can't even develop that skills, that means what? You are a specialist. You can be an individual contributor. Now find out avenues by which you can be an individual contributor. What kind of work can be done which only you can do? And that's where you become a specialist. That's where you become wanted in the organization, and then you will grow. So growth is a little foggy. Like, people don't understand it, what growth is.
Got it. Got it. And when you look at people, especially people who are at middle management level, maybe people, folks who are in their mid 30s or so, um, in terms of communication, presence, etc., whichever word we want to use to call it, what do you think they need to do better? Yeah, at that level.
So the most important thing is, like, I think the critical aspect is the ones that I've already told you. Aside that, it's better to understand the business. And the second thing is, I think people have to see long term. People end up seeing only short term. So if you end up seeing short term, so no harm in it. Like, if you want to explore a larger territory or a larger horizon, then you can always look at that. But I think you should look at is that, do I really understand this? Because if I joined this organization, I must have thought something. And when I thought about joining this organization, what was those initial thoughts that kind of motivated me to join this organization? And once I joined this organization, have I done justice to it? And once I've done justice to it, now is it all I can do, or there is more in me? The day you get a question in your mind that, hey, Joy, you've done enough, what are you doing? That is the time when you should move on. But that's what the trouble is. That's when you get into your comfort zone. Now
Got it.
things are working, everything is a well-oiled engine. So why I need to move out? There's no harm. Like, some people would like to live there and they spend the entire tenure there, which is, I'm not saying anything against it. But the thing is that what you want to do? The question is that what you want to do, or is that you want to explore more? So I'll give my example. I was never satiated. So I wanted to do more. So when I did something and I said, I've done enough here, I need to try something else. I tried something else, and I tried something completely different. So that's what it is. It's an individual take. So first and foremost, if I have to give some specific answers, so this is the first thing is, understand your core strength. I think that's the first one. The second thing is, understand why you took up that role and are you doing justice to that. Third is, quantify yourself that the contributions that you're doing is aligned to the business that you're doing. The fourth one is, what is the long term objective that you're looking at? And the fifth and the most important aspect is, if you're looking at a change, what is it that you want to do now? And these are the five important aspects.
Got it. Got it. So, Joy, my last two, three questions before I open the floor for members to ask the questions.
Mm.
How important do you think is the ability to narrate the right story at the right time, deliver your message, or even build a narrative as a leader as you progress in your career?
Mm.
I mean, and what tips would you have for the rest of us to specifically develop this skill?
So, see, skill can be developed. Skill is a new currency. In fact, the other day when we spoke, I did mention about that nobody can exist without having a skill. So skill is a new currency, and it's changing very fast. In fact, gone are those days when if you acquire a skill, you could possibly take a breather and say that, oh, I have acquired the skill, now I'm being there, and after
Mm.
some time I'll acquire a newer skills. Those days are gone. So now skill is changing, like, even before you wake up from your bed, 10 skills have
Right.
changed. So
Right.
one has to constantly keep enhancing one's skill. So there are methods of doing that. The one method of enhancing your skill is, wherever you are, you have an option of learning the skill of that particular place. So that is inner development. So I call it as, I'm taking it from Sadhguru, the inner
Inner
engineering, that you
engineering.
can do it from there. So
Got
that's
it.
the inner engineering that you can do. The
Mm.
second part of skilling is, like, I think knowledge always helps you. So if you're reading, you're studying, you're giving your courses, you're getting yourself certified. So this kind of gives you the academics. So many times I've been asked by many students and candidates that, what is the point in reading it while I can get on YouTube, which can give me that answer in 10 seconds or maybe a 1 minute video. So my answer to that is, the person who's doing that video, how much has that person read? How much time has that person given? Focus on that. Why not you focus on that? You are going to make a YouTube video. So are you ready? Is people going to listen to you while you make a YouTube video? And if you have an answer to that, make a video and test it for yourself. If there are no viewers, you know the answer. And if there are 1 million users, you got it, you've cracked it. But the question is, how did you get 1 million users? And that's the most important aspect.
Got it. Got it. And I'm sure a lot of people who are attending this meeting right now are also working with Gen Z employees and team members, right? And
Yeah.
they've been painted as like probably the most impossible generation to work with, and so many other things. What's your view of Gen Zs, and how do you, as a manager of a Gen Z team, actually get them to contribute, keep them engaged, and give them sense of purpose? Any tips on that?
Of course, I don't have tips basically, but I firmly believe. In fact, in earlier many forums, if people have been following me, they would have heard this. I have said that it's a myth to say that Gen Zs are a problem. So let's first understand that, let's break that myth that Gen Zs are a problem. Gen Zs are not a problem. So
Okay.
what Gen Zs are today, in some days, this same bunch of Gen Zs are going to sit and they're going to talk about how to handle alphas. How do I handle betas? Oh my God, they are so difficult. So it's no different. In fact, you'll be amazed that this particular line of saying that this new generation is so worthless. If you do a research and you'll find that this goes as back as more than 3,000 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So this generation, blame on generation has always been there. When we were young, our parents were saying, "Kya hai?" Matlab, what are you? We were so different. Now we
Mm,
are saying that the next generation will say that. I think that cycle continues. So I
got it.
first and foremost believe that Gen Z is not a problem. Gen
Right.
Z is the way they have grown up, the way they have seen things, the way they have been exposed. So we have to understand that, are we seeing that? And if you are able to see that, it's not changing the Gen Zs, it is you changing your approach. How do you handle Gen Zs? Because
Got
if
it.
they have seen certain things, it's so I'll give an example. So a few days back, me and my friend were having a chat about our old days, and we were talking about how we used to go to the library and read books, take notes, and those times do those photocopies and then make notes and everything. So his daughter was sitting there, and she, after some time listening, he said that they all say bro, na? So we become bro for everybody. So they said that, bro, why didn't you guys use Google? So we laughed out loud and we said there was no Google at that time. So for now, see, you can't blame it to that generation. They've grown up that why are you struggling so much? Just do Google and you'll get it. Do a chat GPT and you can get it. So we are in that world. So if you're in
Right.
that world and they are used to this, how do you expect they will even understand that what we are referring to or what you are talking about, right? So it's a different world altogether. So we'll have to understand that what is it that they understand, what is the lingo that they say, and if you are able to understand that, they can do it. I'll give you a simple example. The simple answer to this is, you are in Germany or you are in France and you don't know German and you don't know French. How will you struggle? That's the same struggle you're doing with the Gen Zs. There can be no simpler answer to this. If you are in Germany and if you don't know German, you will struggle because you don't know the language. If you are in France and you don't know French, then you are in trouble. And don't ever use English in France because they hate it. So you are in trouble. So with Gen Z is also the same thing, that they speak the French, they speak the Germans, but we speak a different language. So understand their language. I think you can navigate it. I have been working with Gen Zs, and trust me, my experience with Gen Zs is fantastic. I have not faced any challenge. I have to just tell them what is needed, and they are so much into it, they just do it. But yeah, we have to understand what they want. If you don't understand that, can't help it.
Got it. Got it. Cool. My last question before I move into the Q&A. I remember you mentioning this interesting instance when the global CEO or CEO had come, Aviva, right?
Yeah, Aviva, Aviva.
And what happened in that visit? And you should also tell us why that person taking a flight of stairs was going to be a challenge.
Yeah, of course. So this is, I'm talking about my Aviva days in Thane. And Thane at that time, Aviva had a mezzanine floor and it had an underground floor. Now, going to the underground floor was really a challenge because the staircase was very narrow and it was difficult for a person to get down, because as you climb down the stairs, you have to take care of your head, and the passage was narrow. So that time, Stuart Purdy had come to our office. He was a global CEO. And everybody was saying that we will show him all other place in the office, but we will not show him where the agency is. And that was an agency was downstairs. So that's where the agency. Now, I was given the responsibility to take him around and talk to him and make him feel at home out over there. So while I was taking him around and making him feel comfortable, I just passed on to him and I took that challenge. And that was another lesson that, if you have something in your, because my heart said that he's come here to see the agency. And if he doesn't see the agency, I think his trip will be incomplete. So I just told him that, Stuart, don't you want to see where the agency is? And Stuart said, yes, yes, I would want to see it. But
I think a little more context for the rest of us. What does agency mean in this context?
Yeah. So I'll give thanks for telling me that. So agency so it's Aviva is an insurance company. So it's a life insurance company. So in the life insurance company, the bread and butter is coming from the people who bring this business from the customers. And these customers can be retail customers, that is people like you and me, or it can be through a bank assurance, which is through a bank. So the bank assurance business is the banking business, which is coming through a bank because the bank becomes an agent. And if you're doing an agency, which is people coming up to people like you and me who reach you and talk about insurance, that's agency. So I think that's
Okay.
the
The folks who
agency
call us
business.
every day and
Yeah. So things have evolved. Like, it's no longer how it used to be, but things have evolved. I have something to share for the young adults out over here in a while. But before, let me complete the Stuart story, and I'll talk about sales. I think that's very, very critical for people to understand. So this is where the agency business is, and it's critical because the bread and butter comes from there. The money comes from there. So I'm sure as a global head, he would not be visiting India on a regular basis. So if he is there and if he has come to that particular branch, he would definitely want to see it. So that's where I pushed him and I asked him that, would you like to see it? And he said, yes, of course, would like to see it. But I said that, but the challenge for you is you'll have to climb downstairs. And he was like really huge. So he said, are you challenging me? I said, no, I'm just telling you. So, and he said that, and he had a look on his face and he said, okay, come on, bring it on. Like, I'm going to try it out. And it was not easy for him, but then he did climb the stairs down and he spent time. And while he went down and he was addressing the audience, I think that is the biggest gift that remains with me. He told the entire audience that the only reason I'm standing here and talking with you guys is because of this guy. Had he not pushed me, I wouldn't have come. So I think you have to be true to your heart. If your heart says something, just say it. At max, what will happen? People will say no. That's okay. Don't be fear of the no. I think you should just go ahead and do it.
right, right. And you
So the
had
next
something
part,
else.
so Sachin, I'll just take a minute,
Sure,
which
sure.
is which is important in terms of the sales part. I think I get this question quite often from many people is, I don't want to do sales. Like, I'm doing this MBA, I'll do my MBA and I'll go and sit in nice swanky office. I don't want to walk on the streets and do sales and all those stuff. So people say that. So I think break that myth. So I want to pass it through your channel is break that myth. Sales is not that how you think. Those days are gone. Like when you have to actually go out on the street and do that kind of a selling. Yes, of course, you do have to meet dealers, you do have to talk to them, but you have to understand that that's the real essence. And if you do that at least once in your lifetime, it will give you immense knowledge and immense experience. So don't be scared about doing sales. Sales is not a taboo. You should do it. In fact, I do get asked that, Joy, have you done sales? So my answer to that is yes, I have. And I was with Tata IG when I was challenged by the sales team that can your team do sales. And I'm so proud to say that my team, which was completely comprising of training team, we did 7 crores of business in that days. Like I'm talking about way back in 2006, which was a lot of business. So we did that.
Okay, fantastic. But then you were a trainer, no?
Yeah, we were trainer. Yeah. So, but
So,
but the only thing is, one should not be like taking it as a taboo. It's not a taboo.
right.
There's no harm.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think sales is probably the most important thing that all of us have to learn, and especially anyone who has entrepreneurial ambition. So, like that, you should jump at the opportunity of, being able to do sales. So fantastic, great conversation, Joy. We are going to continue with this. I want to make a request to everyone. Please go ahead and write down any questions that you have, and maybe share it in the chat box so that I can pick up. If time permits, I will also let you folks ask the question directly on video. While you do that, I'm going to quickly share a few more things about the story club, which I'd like to share with you before we start off with the last part, which is basically the Q&A with Joy. So feel free to ask any of the questions that you may have in terms of career progression, communication, leadership roles, etc., etc. I'm sure that we can all learn from Joy's immense experience. What I wanted to share before we get into that was every meeting that we do Wednesday 7 to 9, like I said, it's about preparation, practice, feedback, and we write, narrate, and we win. So we look at a piece of content, we decipher, have a discussion on that. So for instance, we played a clip from Samay Raina's stand-up special a little while ago. We also had a discussion on how Vijay was able to, you know, spring up a surprise in Tamil Nadu and become the chief minister of the state, and what kind of leadership and communication lesson can we learn from that, and a technique or a template that we can utilize in our own communication. Generally, we end up writing LinkedIn posts in every meeting. So these are some of the posts that our members have written. Sanchit, Sujit, Rupesh, and of course, Subbu's post is also here, one of the posts that he had written from the session. So you can see the kind of response that these things get. The idea is that you don't just procrastinate and put the preparation or practice for some other day. You do it while we are in the meeting itself. Some of the other features of a Story Club membership include, of course, as members, you can attend all the meetings, all the 4 to 5 meetings that happen in a month. In fact, I encourage that you should at least attend two. I mean, possibly all, but at least two, if not more than that. We also do something called Help Me Out here. So, for instance, one of our earlier members, Umesh Agarwal, who is an investment banker, was going to make a presentation to a group of elite investors in Gurgaon. And he called for a help me out here session where we all gave him feedback on how to make the presentation more interesting. And that's where a suggestion came that because you're doing the presentation in Gurgaon, use Khosla Ka Ghosla as a hook or as an opening picture. And he used that, and Umesh then came back and told us his was the best presentation of the day. And since then, he's been receiving a lot more requests from across the country for him to go and make presentation to different investors. Similarly, we've had experiences where Farah, one of our members, was able to crack a senior role because of a mock interview that we did here. So apart from the sessions that we do, anytime that you have a high stakes communication event coming your way, you can ask members to help you. We do something called Story Pub every once in a while, where we just meet up and talk, no agenda. And was something that we've not been able to institutionalize well, but we want to raise to 100 stories. So can all of us write 100 important stories, whether it's narrative, anecdotes from personal life, stories that have inspired you, stuff that you can use in your own communication. We want to do this, and we also want people to narrate this. So this is what a Story Club membership looks like. These are our membership, subscription prices. So if you want to try out the Story Club, it's 1,500 for a month. If you do a quarterly subscription, there's a 10% discount on that. That comes up to about 4,000. Half yearly comes at 15% discount. That's 7,650. And of course, there are members. Anuradha, who is here, who's attending the meeting, she's taken up an annual subscription at 30% discount at 12,600. So my only request before we start talking to Joy again is that you scan this QR, and there's a very simple question. It will not take you more than 10 seconds. Whether you are interested in becoming a member, then you say yes. If you are clear that no, this Story Club doesn't work for me, the timing doesn't work for me, or whatever other reason does not allow you to join Story Club, you can say no, and we will not bother you again. If you think that you need me or Raksha, our community manager, to get in touch with you to explain what the Story Club does a little bit better, then you can click maybe. So my only request before we start the Q&A is that all of you scan and fill this form. Raksha, if you have the form link handy, if somebody is finding scanning difficult, they can also go ahead and click the link. So if you can share that in the chat box, Raksha.
Sure. Just give me a minute.
Sure. So I'm just going to give all of you maybe 30 seconds to access this link. Just let us know yes, no, maybe. We definitely want more members in the community. And are like I've already mentioned, Storyco, the corporate B2B training work that we do, that's our core business. But I've started Story Club because I know that unless and until we meet, prepare, practice, and have conversations which matter, we can't really build that muscle. And that is why I'm very keen on building Story Club with like-minded people. And I know today we have a lot of like-minded people in the audience. So would love if you think that Story Club is worth your while, but can totally understand if you think that either because of time or for other priorities that you have in life, it may not work for you. Okay, and if anyone has any questions about the Story Club, after the Q&A is done with Joy, you feel free to stay back and I will be happy to answer your questions. Raksha, you'll be able to check the form entries and see if all our visitors have filled their forms one by
I
one.
have it handy in the other end. They are filling, but I I
Okay,
think you
great.
should give them another minute.
Okay,
I think
okay,
then we
cool,
can switch
cool,
over to
cool,
Q&A.
cool. Yeah, sure. And also, I don't know, most of the folks probably are logging in from Bombay. One of the other things about Joy is Joy grew up in Mumbai as well, though he moved back to Bombay from Kolkata.
Yeah.
And if I'm not wrong, Joy Khar, right? Khar
Yeah.
Kulanda?
Car Fifth Road. Car Fifth Road is where I used to live.
Okay, okay.
So people who are from Mumbai, they will kind of get it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
For me, the fondest memory of Khar is Khar Gymkhana.
Yeah.
So,
So my school was near the Gymkhana.
okay,
So yeah, Car
okay.
Gymkhana. So my school was VP My School, which is on the 14th road, 14th and the 16th road. So the GA Kulkarni is on the fourth. I think GA Kulkarni is on the 14th and this is on the 16th, something like that. But it's on
Right.
14th and the 16th road. That's how it is.
Understood. Understood. Also, another interesting aspect of Joy's childhood is that he actually grew up with his cousins.
Yeah.
Uh, and maybe we can share a little bit about why and how that happened, Joy, while people are filling the form.
Yeah, of course. So, in fact, my dad is a civil engineer by profession. So, he was posted at a place called Uttarkashi, which is in Uttarakhand now, and it's not developed even today. So, I'm talking about so many years back. So, that time also it was not developed. There was no school there. In fact, there was only one small pathshala, a very dilapidated one. And so, my dad had a challenge in terms of where do I put my child for schooling. So after my initial prep schooling, which was done by one of the missionaries, he was struggling in terms of where to put me. And initially, he thought of putting me into Doon School, which is a hostel.
Right.
So my dad's sister was living in Mumbai. She is the one who was living in Fifth Road Car, and she has a son and a daughter. So, daughter is almost about my age. She's about 8, 9 months elder to me, and son is about 6 years elder to me. So, kind of all student. So she said that why do you want to send your son to a hostel where he will not get a family? You send him to me. I'm in Mumbai, and I think you have fairly good schools here, and he can get educated and he can also grow with the family. And that's how I got shifted to Mumbai. My parents dropped me here and they went. And it took me some time to understand okay, my parents are not with me. I have to grow up with, because initially I thought, okay, it is fun. I have got some more friends here and this is going to be fun. And then slowly, it started creeping into me that, okay, this is my life out over here.
Right. Right.
And that's how
Right.
I grew with my aunt. So she is kind of my second mother.
Right.
So
Right.
that's how it is.
Beautiful. Great. Okay. Cool. Raksha, any update?
Yes, people have filled. a couple
Okay,
of
fantastic, fantastic,
yes.
great. I won't take further time, but I mean more time from you folks. But beware of Raksha. She calls people in the night if you don't fill this form. So you've been warned. Okay, now we can get back to the questions that folks want to ask Joy. Anyone who wants to go ahead, volunteer, ask the question. I'm going to put Joy in the spotlight. It's already in spotlight. Okay. Feel free, you can just directly ask your question if you are more comfortable placing your question in the chat box, which I think some people have. Thanks, very impressive. Yeah. Cool. Anyone with any questions? Okay. Yes, Subbu, we are waiting for your question in the chat box.
Might be while Subbu's doing that, just one.
Yes.
As in we were talking about sales experience, and I think very valid that Joy mentioned about everyone should go through that, and the taboo part is very I think connecting. I always also talk to a few people that when we are giving an interview to an HR guy, what are we doing? Actually, in that case, we are doing sales, right? We are trying to
Right.
position us as the product, and we are trying to say that we are the best for the organization. So this is one example which I always give. So that is just one anecdote which I want to share. What I also wanted to ask Joy was about again coming back to sales. In the current times, we are seeing, of course, people not very interested to do the sales role, and more so ever the sales role where we have to go into the field like a hardcore field sales role. So do you see that in the future this kind of roles will not exist because we are not really, at least we are not finding people who are ready to do those kind of hardcore sales roles. So what do you see as in as with your vast experience working with various organizations?
You're absolutely correct. In fact, that's a challenge, and it's like a Me Too pressure that is there. So, there has been a bunch of people who've possibly found it difficult to do this kind of a job, and they must have had very bad memories in their life. And they have said that don't ever get into this. And that's kind of passed like a wildfire. And nowadays, whenever I go and meet up students, they say that we'll do everything, but we'll not do hardcore sales. But while this is a challenge, but I would say that that's not end of the road. What we also need to do is the way the sales has been projected. I think that needs to be changed. And gone are those days where that kind of a way of doing sales was done. Because let's understand that, if the people are not been skilled or they have not been trained or they have not been made ready to do a hardcore sales like we are talking about, how do you expect that person will deliver? Like, it's like a wet clay, and you are asking that wet clay, okay, now you become a nice statue like a Oscar, and I want to present it to the world. It won't happen because that clay says that, hey, I don't know how to be a statue. So I think what is important is we folks, and I'm doing it my part. In fact, that's why I did talk about sales, is we have to start changing the way the sales is being seen and changing the way the training programs are being done, changing the way the exposures are done for the people. And that's when people will realize that, okay, this is also part of the job and this is not something that should not be done or should not be a taboo. So it is difficult. I completely agree with you. But it's not end of the road, and we can always find out how we can work on. So a couple of solutions that I can look at is we are all focused on tier 1 and tier 2 cities. But I think there is a bunch of resources sitting in tier 3, tier 4 cities and who have no exposure. And in fact, they will go those extra mile if they have been given an opportunity to come to a tier 1 and tier 2 cities. So organizations now start looking at tier 3 and tier 4 cities where you can find talent. And trust me, I have statistical data and I've seen people who come from tier 3 and tier 4 cities because they have that urge to perform, the urge to do well. They do stick to you if they see the support. I think what happens wrong in the sales team is you give a huge sales target, the poor guy is not able to do it, and then what you do is you are out. So I think that hire and fire thing needs to be changed. Support needs to be given. There has to be more patience. there has to be empathy, then automatically this will start building up. People can do sales. It's not, it is only when people have the fear is when they fail. If the fear is taken off, people will not fail.
Great. Thanks, Joy.
Yeah.
Got it. Fantastic, Joy. Subbu has a couple of questions. One of them is on a lighter note. So, let's take it as that. He said, you mentioned insurance sales and honesty in a single breath. So, how did you balance honesty and the sales contrast? That's number one. And second, serious question on career. In candidates that make the cut, right, to senior roles, what communication or signals do these candidates project that you've seen that enables you to take the decision that, hey, this person is selected versus someone else who you probably don't select?
Okay. Fantastic question. So, in fact, Subbu, in my experience, I spent a fairly good amount of time in the insurance, and I have worked very closely with the MDRT, people. I'm sure you would know about MDRT. So, while I interacted with them, and we all have had a very good journey there. I have seen most of the salespeople who were successful. They were always having this, that they always had the honesty at the forefront, and some of them, they gave away the business because they said that we don't want to do with you because you are asking for a cut. In fact, I have asked so many people, they said that I gave away this because the person was asking me for a cut. So it works both ways. So even the customers who come to the agents, they say that I will give you this insurance policy, but how much commission will you give me? So it's not always clean on one side. The story is on both the sides, and the successful salespeople do remain honest. Successful salespeople do understand the real need for providing insurance and the way insurance has to be projected. And once they do it, they get success. But yes, we live in a real world. In the real world, what happens is there are a bunch of people who try those shortcuts and try to missell, because for them it's a limited period. They say that I'm going to be here only for a year or a two. Let me just do whatever, get the numbers, get the accolades that is required, all the awards, and then move on. And that's when what happens is, when the renewal comes in the second year, the person is completely lost. I don't know what was sold to me, and he promised me something else, and I'm getting something else. So that's the reality of life.
Yeah, the second question, Joy, which Subbu had was in terms of senior roles, let's say where you are able to decide that this person is worthy of a senior role or cuts it. What are the signals that you look for, both from a communication standpoint and otherwise?
So see, basically, see, when you are, so there are two ways of looking at it. So, which I did mention in my when I was talking to you earlier also, is we have to understand as leaders what is the role asking for, and then we have the bunch of people whom we think would be eligible for that. So there is a clear cut understanding, there are certain bunch of people who would be eligible for doing that, and there would be another bunch of people who would not be eligible for doing that. So then what happens is, it is the leader's responsibility to be unbiased in terms of looking at it, is that what is the strength the person is bringing to the table. If the person is bringing a strength where the person can be like an individual contributor, and you're giving him the responsibility of being a team manager, obviously recipe for disaster. On the same side, if the person is excellent in terms of being a team player but may not have been that great in his individual performances, so there also I think we are not being just by not giving him the opportunity to lead teams, because when he starts leading teams, he can possibly be one of the best leaders. So it's a very, I would say, thin ice on which we have to walk, because the ask is very high for us, because we have to look at the organizational objective. Along with that, we have to see that we are not biased. And in real world, that's the most difficult part, because most of the time we tend to become biased. We tend to take our gut rather than going by the statistical data that is coming in front of us. And today, in the world that we are living in, I think we have so many tools. We have psychometric test, we have other analysis, we have 360 degrees. So these things actually give us clear insight about what that person's capability caliber is. So it's as simple as that, people will come with potential and people will come with performance. So if I have to reward somebody, let me reward somebody on performance. But if I have to look at my company's growth, I have to look at potential. And I think that's the simple demarcation. And once I understand that, taking any decisions is much, much easier.
Got it. Joy, I think it's a sort of a related question by Malbika. She says, of course, I think she knows you. So, hello, Joy. How do you select a complete stranger, a candidate who's a complete stranger to you? Is it sort of your gut feel or the person's storytelling capabilities during the interview?
No, actually, you don't select it on either. So I was just mentioning that just a minute back also. So you look at the person's potential as well as the person's existing performance. So if the person is a fresher, obviously you don't have performance. So you will have to understand from the skill set that the person is bringing. So you can do some measure some test or ask some questions by which you can get some results. So I think the most common technique that is followed while doing interview is the STAR technique. So in that STAR technique, you give a situational or you give a transaction and you ask the person how the person will react to that. And based on that, you particularly take a decision. And you can give multiples so that you understand that how the person is responding to that. Yes, I agree. Psychometric assessments are also there, but they can also be cheated because there are people who know how to cheat it or they know how to go about it. So while you are taking an interview which may last for half an hour, 35 minutes, or max to max an hour. So in that, the decision that needs to be taken is, of course, your gut feel definitely will come into play because that's where the bias is. I did mention about that. But more than bias, you have to see that is this person able to exhibit the things that is required for that role. And if that person fulfills into that, then you can take the step ahead. If the person doesn't fulfill, that doesn't mean that a person is bad. May not be good for the role that you're looking for at that moment, maybe for some other role.
Got it. Cool. Superb. Anyone else with any other questions? If not, then I think I'll wait for a couple of minutes before we start closing this particular session. So yes, any other questions? Okay. All right, Subbu and Malbika have thanked you for your response. So I think that sort of brings us towards the end of today's session. Joy, I can't thank you enough for making the time. I know you're still sitting in office and doing this session, so extra gratitude for that, for extending your work day and still sitting back in office to do this for us. And I'm sure that all of us have learned a great deal from the conversation that you had with us today. And if with your permission, I will let people know that if they want to stay in touch with you, they can do that via your LinkedIn. So you can look for Joy. It's pretty simple, Joy, of course, very simple name to spell. And his surname is Banerjee, Banerjee. You can find him on LinkedIn. Stay in touch. And something that I've always wanted to tell some HR leader that if I have something, then I'll get back to you. Thanks a lot, Joy. Thank you for your time. And
Thank you.
it's been a pleasure.
Sachin,
We'll be in touch. Yes.
before we
Oh,
leave,
picture.
picture.
Oh, really sorry. I keep forgetting this all the time. Okay.
If everyone can come on video, please. This will be the
Yeah. We will probably put something out on social media. Thank you all for joining. A lot of visitors today compared to most sessions. So if you can turn on your video, that'll be really helpful. And maybe what pose? What do we do? Oh,
Yashas,
that, yeah, good.
Maya, Ruchir,
Yeah.
Gauri.
Trishika, cool. Yeah, we'll do what Trishika did.
Your fingers. That's the main thing right now, right? So they have this.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
now they say that they can get your fingerprint through your pictures. So
We'll
whenever
do
you do the V
a,
sign, you have to do it like this, the other way around.
Okay.
Tanvi, is your sketch note ready? Can I add that?
She has sent it across. We'll
Okay.
have to check.
Okay,
Okay.
do the picture, then I'll tell people to stay back.
Okay, one more. Okay, done.
Okay, great, fantastic. Please don't log off. I forgot. Tanvi is one of our members. Tanvi runs. She's a illustrator by profession. She's an illustrations artist. She runs a company called Silly Strokes. And one of the things that she does really well, and she's actually Joy. Maybe you've seen her at Shram's conferences for the last 3 years, not the one which happened just now,
That's
but the
true.
earlier ones. She's the one who used to do live sketch noting at these conferences. So Tanvi's done a live sketch note of this session as well, which I think, Raksha, have you added to the presentation or you want to share it directly from your screen?
I've shared it with you. I can add it to the presentation. Just give me
Okay,
one second.
yeah. So let's just wait and take a look at the sketch note that Tanvi's put together, inspired by the conversation with Joy, and then we can call it a day. Aparna, looks like you're also in office. Are you from CDSL?
Yeah, she is.
Okay,
She's from my team.
got it, got it, got it. Okay.
But I didn't
Yes,
ask her
I've
to
added
sit.
it.
No, no, no. They. On a lighter note, you don't have to ask.
Sachin, I've added it to the presentation. If you can
Okay,
just
okay,
share
cool,
it.
cool. I'm pulling out the presentation. Okay. After the Q&A slide, right?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Can everyone see this?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice.
we'll add this to our WhatsApp group as well. Yeah, how Tanvi does this while the sessions is on is something that's beyond me. Uh,
This is fantastic. Superb.
yeah. So,
Thank you so
Joy,
much,
I
Joy.
think all of us, including Tanvi, will be very happy if probably you share this sketch note on LinkedIn
Of course.
as something that has come out from your conversation with the Story Club. Probably, if you can tag Tanvi, I think that will help her a great deal. And yes, of course, if anybody is from the HR space, people who are organizing conferences, offsites, etc., then Tanvi is available for live sketch noting and other type of visual facilitation. I mean, facilitation for visual thinking, etc., that she does, and she's fantastic at what she does. So please reach out to Tanvi as well if you think it's relevant for you. Okay, thanks a lot for this as well, Tanvi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sachin.
Okay. Cool, super. If anyone has any questions about Story Club, feel free to stay back. But otherwise, we are done with the session. Thanks a lot, Joy. Thanks everyone
Thank
for
you.
joining. Thank you for making the time. See you soon. Be in touch.
You too. Thank you. God bless. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Joy.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
Great
Thanks.
session. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I'm pausing. Stop recording.